So it's been a few weeks since Legends ZA has been out. How's everyone feeling? Okay, so Pokemon Legends ZA hasn't gotten the reception that Nintendo probably expected.
You serious?
Yeah, that doesn't look too good. So I dropped my video on Legends ZA about a week ago now, and that was right after my first playthrough, and I wanted to get out all of my initial thoughts on the game. But in today's video, I really want to take a deep dive into all of my thoughts and just talk about everything in a little bit more details than I did in the previous video, hence the length of this one. In short, Pokemon Legends ZA is a game full of ideas that could have made it incredible, but most of them feel unfinished or ignored. So grab a drink, get a snack, and let's have a conversation about Pokemon Legends ZA. Where to begin this video? Maybe let's start with a little honesty. I do not like the entirety of Pokemon Legends ZA. There are qualities in this game that I do enjoy. Unfortunately, for many of them, they are underbaked or underutilized. We will go into all of my feelings, but a good example of what I'm talking about is your traveling companions, your Pokemon. In this game, you can only have one of them out at all times, unlike Legends Arceus. I gotta say Arceus now since I got flamed in my last video for saying Arceus. In that game, you could have all 6 of your Pokemon out, albeit they didn't move, but at least you can interact with them. But not here. All your Pokemon can really do is battle and attack rocks. And it's disappointing because it is nice to have them walking around with you, even though they can't keep up most of the time, but not being able to even pet them is just sad. The bigger disappointment for me is that your Pokemon aren't even out during conversations with other NPCs. I feel like this is such a missed opportunity. After a battle, you never see your character celebrate with their Pokemon or interact with them in any way, shape, or form. And sometimes after I beat a trainer in a battle and we have a talk, I think it would be really cool to have my Pokemon just right next to me, especially if they're mega evolved. How cool would it be if your Mega Emboar was just like posted up right next to you after you beat a kid for his lunch money? This is just one example of how Game Freak misses the opportunity to do something cool with this game. They insist on keeping the same flow of dialogue and cutscenes that they have been using since Sword and Shield. Yeah, like that's been going well. So I recently found out that the budget for Pokemon Legends ZA was only $13 million, which is a ridiculously tiny budget for a game with so many eyes on it. You would think that Nintendo, Game Freak, and Creatures Inc. would use at least one of their billions and billions of dollars on the part of the franchise that literally keeps them afloat. Not financially, but creatively. Without the games, there are no new Pokemon. And without the games, there is nothing every Pokemon fan falls back on. And somehow this is a part of the franchise that gets the worst treatment. And the reason that I bring up the budget is, yes, to complain, but to also let you know, before we discuss more of the game, the budget is not the only reason this game fails. Like the Pokemon example I just gave, and the many more I'll sprinkle in this video, there are countless instances where the budget is not the part that's holding Game Freak back. There are examples everywhere that point to Game Freak either not caring about this game at all, or what everyone suspects, that they are extremely lazy. I'm not going to straight up say it's one or the other, because the truth is, I don't know. But the probability that Game Freak knows people will buy the game regardless is why they don't see a reason to spend more money on these releases. Anyway, enough of Nintendo and Game Freak's greed. There will be plenty of time to talk about that later. Let's talk more about the game. And naturally, I think it's fitting to start with the best part of the game, and that is Lumiose City. Despite what some people will tell you, Lumiose City is actually very small. This by far is smaller than any other Pokemon game we have ever gotten. And nothing grinds my gears more than when I see reviewers say, yeah, it's small, but jam-packed with stuff to do. Like, I wholeheartedly wonder if we played the same game. Did I download the wrong Legends ZA? Because I don't think the textures are on my build. Okay, in all seriousness, Lumiose City technically has a lot to do in it, but to be honest, all that it offers gets very boring very fast, which is unfortunate because I never felt that way when I played the last Legends game. So what is there to do in this city? Let's start with catching Pokemon. Some people in Lumiose City had the bright idea of adding wild zones inside the city. Yeah, it's such a bad idea that I kid you not. A part of the storyline is how much people in the game hate the wild zones. Like, is this some type of meta narrative or something? So we get these wild zones sprinkled all throughout the map, and they are tiny. Wow, what a surprise. The thing that really upsets me about these is that they all feel so copy and paste, so boring. Many of them are parks or just streets. Like this one was a street in the beginning of the game. Somewhere halfway through, they put 2 trees here and said, boom, new wild zone. And I wish I could say that this is an outlier, but no, most of them look like this, and the Pokemon in them are just random. A lot of times I question the Pokemon choices in these wild zones. They really feel like they were just dropped in. Zoos in real life do a better job mimicking animals' natural habitat. This, like, what is this? Why would a pincer decide to just live here? On top of that, they use these hideous green walls to divide the wild zones in the city. I already spoke about how much I hate these things in my last video, but in case you missed it, they are just invisible walls. And they get very annoying very fast. Not only do they look bad, but you can only enter and exit these places from one of their main gates. Otherwise, if you try and jump over them, yeah, invisible wall. I am genuinely surprised that this was the best idea that Game Freak had when it came to integrating Pokemon into a city like this. The crazy part is we have already seen how a city like this should look like in other Pokemon media. Detective Pikachu has a city integrated with humans and Pokemon, and there are no silly green walls everywhere. Again, this is not a budgetary issue. This is an imagination issue. No one could think of a better system than this. Well, I know a dev team that already did. Okay, but what about actually catching Pokemon in this game? That should be fine, right? And I'm happy to report that it is at least functional. It works very similar to how it did in Legends Arceus. However, they did remove the option to use motion controls when throwing your Pokeballs. I don't know why this is. I personally love motion controls. I know it's a hot take, and I was very sad to see it go here. But one real positive that Game Freak has done here is how the Pokédex works. You no longer need to catch 10 or 15 of the same Pokemon to complete the Pokédex. Just one of each really can do it, and they still have a list of challenges that you can complete for some actually decent rewards like powerful TMs and XP candies. I do want to also talk about the Pokemon that we have available to us. So this game has a total of 230 Pokemon. Yes, only 230 and 295 if we are really nice and count all of the megas. Now, this isn't too different than Legends Arceus. However, it feels like such a bigger problem here since there is a huge emphasis on battling in this game. At night, battle zones will spawn in the map, and you're tasked to go there and battle a ton of people, mostly for story progression. Now, you can battle up to 10 or even 20 people or more in a single night if you beat them fast enough. For me, this is when that tiny Pokédex became a big problem, since you're going to see many of these same Pokemon over and over and over again. I don't think that this amount of Pokemon can carry a game that will likely have you battling hundreds of trainers. You're eventually going to see a lot of the same Pokemon. And let's touch on that day and night cycle just a little bit, because I absolutely hate it. Instead of being like any other decent game on the planet, there is no timer, there is no clock. The only sign that you get that it's going to change from day to night is some vague warnings the game gives you, like dawn is coming, dawn is upon us. Like, what the hell is this? How long do I have? And it does matter here because a lot of the overworld resets during these transitions. So if you're trying to catch a stubborn Pokemon that just won't stay in the damn ball and it changes times, that Pokemon is going to disappear. The transition is also mind-numbingly long. A clock like Majora's Mask would have been awesome here. And I know it could be stressful for people to see the time like that, so you could have put it in the pause menu, or just keep the day and night cycle to the bench system. Let me just choose when the time changes. In addition to all of that, Lumio City hardly changes when it's night. Other than these battle zones spawning in a random area in the map, which use red walls instead of green, the only changes is one, maybe two different types of Pokemon spawning in each wild zone. I'm not joking. The max is usually 2 different types of Pokemon showing up at night in each wild zone. Compare this to fan-made Pokemon games that have entirely different encounters during their day and night cycles in each route. And I know I'm gonna sound like a broken record, but this is not a budget issue. This is poor planning. So aside from catching Pokemon and battling, Lumio City offers 118 side quests, which is an impressive number until you play a few of them And then you see how Game Freak was able to manage to put so many of them in this game. These side quests, or at least a majority of them, are bad. And they are boring. However, some are well written, I will give you that. One side mission is walking 3 Trubbish down an alley while NPCs say you smell like shit. And when you drop them off to their designated trash can, you get 3 rare candies for some reason. The rewards for these side quests range from very bad to extremely good. You can either get 500 bucks and some XP candies, or you can get a life orb. And the sad part is that the quality of these side quests has nothing to do with the rewards that you get. Some of the best side quests give decent rewards, while some of the worst ones give the best rewards. It's random. These side quests can range between just battling a person to following a Pokemon for a little while. I can think of one side quest that gave me a riddle that actually had me stumped looking at my map. Just one, and I really enjoyed it. But this was 1 out of 118. There are just way too many filler side quests here, and again, some of them have extraordinary rewards. Luckily, the game does tell you what rewards you're going to get ahead of time, so you don't need to do every single side quest if you don't want to. And that's kind of another problem with this game. It tells you a little too much. Every single quest in this game tells you exactly where to go, and every NPC that has an item for you will have a yellow text box. I'm kind of mixed on this. For one, I like that I don't need to waste my time talking to every NPC, but on the other hand, I remember playing the old DS games and talking to everyone and never knowing whether they would give me a good item or just give me lore of the world. But one of the benefits of the game telling you exactly where to go is not having to waste your time in the bland overworld. There's nothing really to do here other than destroying some of the mega rocks, mega shards. I forgot what they're called. But you should be destroying them as you play through your game because you're going to need them. These shards are one of the main ways you're going to get many of the Mega Evolution Stones in this game. They are extremely annoying to hit and they break the pace of the game, but you gotta do it. Also, FYI, you can only carry 999 of these, so make sure when you hit that number that you go and spend them. Legends ZA is also the first Pokemon game that you can't swim in at all. There are a few bodies of water in this game and no actual way to get in them. No surfing Pokemon, no stupid Rotom bike, nothing. You cannot interact with the water in this game. Explains why IGN gave it an 8. Apparently you can't run past holograms either. Must be the same technology the walls are made of. Lumio City is very small, and I think that's why we didn't get any form of transportation in this game. I honestly thought we were going to get roller skates, but they're not here. Not even a bike, which I'm pretty sure has been a part of the series ever since its conception, which is a disappointment because X and Y was the first game to let you ride Pokemon in the overworld. We don't get anything like that in this game. Not even a wild zone that you can ride a go-go in. Nothing. And I will rage if this is in the DLC. That would be the last straw for me. Well, technically, we do get a Rotom Glide. This is by far one of the worst double jump glide things I've ever seen in a video game. It's horrible and honestly such a spit in the face compared to what we got in Legends Arceus. This might just be me, but I think it's so strange that there's a Rotom phone, but Rotom's not in the game. Anyways, let's move on to gameplay. So Game Freak finally tried something new here, and for that, I do think they deserve a thumbs up. My issue is how underbaked this system truly is. And I get it. Maybe they were just testing the waters, seeing how people would react to a new style of gameplay. And if somebody from Game Freak or Nintendo is possibly seeing this, yes, I like it. And I actually think a majority of people would like to continue to see a battle system similar to this, but just improved on. My issue with the system is the lack of true strategy here. Let me give you some examples. One of my favorite interactions I had during this game is when opponents use the move Protect. I think it works awesome in this game, and it feels really impactful when you're charging a very strong move and it does no damage. And this is what I mean when I say strategy. I wish more moves did stuff like that. Another example is Quick Attack. It kind of works the same way. Your Pokemon attacks very fast, charges up fairly quickly, and can sometimes be used to dodge attacks if timed properly. But it doesn't feel like that was the intention here. There are moves that make your Pokemon jump, take up large spaces in the arena, or have them dive at your opponent. I just wish we had more control of where our Pokemon were going or where these attacks were landing. Right now, you have a base of a system that can truly be interesting, but at the moment, it feels random. Sure, you can kind of tell your Pokemon where to go, but this doesn't feel like I'm fully in control. I think with some tweaks, this can be a really fleshed out system. Just imagine if we were having a Pokemon battle and you decided to use Whirlpool and place it right under my Pokemon, and I use a move to bounce away and dodge it, and I'm able to counterattack. That's what I'm talking about. Give the players a little bit more agency here. Right now, it feels like everyone's just kind of clicking their moves and seeing which Pokemon attack first. I do think moves like Sword Stance and Bulk Up need buffs as well. Whenever you use an attack in this game, you have to be locked onto an opponent. So that means when you knock out a Pokemon, you can't begin to buff yours until your opponent releases their next one. I want to say we should have been able to do this, but who knows? Maybe it would have been too broken. But as of right now, it feels like these moves are too weak and almost not worth doing. But I do get the feeling that there's something really cool and special here. But the sad reality is that I don't think that Game Freak will innovate on this system much more or at all from this point. But I guess we'll see. Let's move on. The game is pretty easy. There was never a moment that I blacked out or had my entire team wiped. Honestly, it's no different than any other Pokemon game. If you have your starter in your party the whole time, they will eventually be so over leveled that they can pretty much steamroll the game themselves. And just in case you're wondering, Tepig is the correct choice as your starter because he's the coolest. No notes. I'm not going to harp long on the difficulty of this game. I am so tired of bringing it up for every single Pokemon game. We know they are easy, and Game Freak seems to be allergic to adding any type of difficulty options for whatever reason. I am not a game dev, but maybe it costs $1 million to add a few extra levels to your opponent's Pokemon, or I don't know, adding a level cap option for the player. Again, there is a point where budget cannot be the entire excuse for laziness. We talked already about a lot of the NPCs having the same Pokemon. It's bound to happen with such a tiny roster. But something else that really started to disappoint me was the NPC's lack of ability to Mega Evolve. So much of this game's roster are Pokemon that can Mega Evolve, and believe it or not, that's almost half of the Pokédex. A lot of times I was battling trainers that had Pokemon with Mega Evolutions, and I was just disappointed that they did not Mega Evolve them. Trainers eventually start doing this once you hit rank B, but it's so late in the game that I didn't get to experience it much at all. How cool would it have been if every time you entered one of these battle zones, one trainer would have the ability to Mega Evolve one of their Pokemon, and you wouldn't know who it was. And this would be unlocked right after you got your Mega Ring. Obviously, this wouldn't make the game much more challenging, but I do think that it would have made these battle zones a little bit more interesting, especially when you're pretty much steamrolling everyone in these areas. And while we're at it, let's talk about the Megas in this game, because this is something I'm pretty torn on. So when I was playing, my goal was to have a team full of Pokemon that had received new Mega Evolutions. I wanted to experience as many of the new Megas that I could in a single playthrough. While doing this, my team did fluctuate a lot because many of the new Megas you don't receive until halfway or near the end of the game, while most of the old Megas were readily available pretty early on. This was disappointing, but I was happy to see that many of the new Mega Evolutions had some time for them to shine. Every new Mega either has a special trainer that helps them Mega Evolve or is a part of one of the Rogue Mega Evolution battles, which is by far my favorite part of this game. I thought they were pretty well done, and I enjoyed seeing each rogue Mega Pokemon having a special little gimmick to them, like when Barbarical was spawning a ton of little Binacles, or Frostlass freezing the entire battlefield, forcing you to hide behind one of the glaciers that landed earlier. I had fun with these, and honestly, a few close calls in some of these fights. I think my biggest complaint with rogue Mega Evolutions is that there wasn't more of them. Sometimes there would be hours between these fights, and a part of me wished that they were more readily available outside of the story, kind of like the Dynamax caves that we received in Sword and Shield. I wish that we were able to find more rogue Megas during our playthrough and initiate these fights ourselves instead of needing the story to bring them to us. This would have also been a great feature to play online with your friends. How cool would it have been if we could join together and fight some of these rogue Megas? But no, we didn't get that, and the only feature that we received was online battles, which leads me to Nintendo Online. Game Freak thought it would be really cool to have some Mega Evolutions put behind an online subscription. People are not outraged about this enough, because they are releasing 3 Mega Evolutions, the Kalos starters, as online battle exclusive megas. And the worst part is that they are releasing them in seasons, not all at once. That means that you can't get a 1 month or a 1 week free subscription to get all of the megas. No, you need to have it for at least 3 months, I think. And I need you to hear me if you are a Pokemon, and I need you to hear me, especially if you're a Nintendo or a Game Freak defender. This type of stuff, the core audience falls for it, not the casuals, not the people that are hating on the game. No, the core audience of Pokemon are the ones that fall for this kind of trap. And I think it's wrong that Game Freak is milking that core audience, the ones that have their back. They are just blatantly withholding content. The megas are done. We have seen them. They are complete. They are withholding them in hopes that more people will stay subscribed to Nintendo Online. And I'm not getting it. So I'm going to miss out on the Kalos Mega Evolutions. And I'm also not going to be talking about online battling. It's not going to be a part of this video. If it makes a video feel incomplete, I apologize. I just refuse to get Nintendo Online for this game. Things like this just really frustrate me about this game. And at this point, I wish they wouldn't have brought megas back. They should have just left them in the past. I don't care anymore. Now, I think it's time we jump into discussing the characters and story of Legends ZA. I'm sad to report that the story of this game is very lackluster. Your character is visiting Lumio City for what I imagine is the first time, and your bag gets stolen from a Pancham. From there, you meet your rival Urbane or Tawny, and because they feel bad for you getting robbed, they invite you to visit Hotel Z. From there, you meet your other partners and soon find out that there is a ZA Royale of sorts, and people are battling it out to reach rank A. This explains the battle zones that we talked about earlier. You start from rank Z and work your way towards A, since there's a megacorp called Quasartico that promises whoever reaches rank A will have a wish granted to them. Spoiler alert, the wish these kids get granted is so dumb that you will literally be questioning why you just played this game. It's not until pretty far into the game that you learn that the true reason behind the ZA Royale is so Quasartico and AZ can find the most powerful trainers that can help AZ's Floette Mega Evolve and stop Prism Tower from exploding with Mega Energy. It's also explained that when AZ built the ultimate weapon in X and Y, that he built this weapon in Prism Tower to counteract the damage he had done prior, in hopes that Floette would forgive him. To be honest, I can't remember if this was mentioned in Pokemon X and Y, and I'm just way too lazy to care. However, I think that my biggest problem with the story is that there is no true villain. This is the final boss of the game. Yes, this. And the story desperately needed an antagonist. The game tries to trick you by showing you people that might be the evil masterminds behind all of the rogue mega evolutions, but that never comes. Pretty much everyone that is set up to be a villain quickly becomes your best friend and promises to help defend Lumiose from whatever is happening. Throughout your playthrough, Zygarde will be making appearances during the rogue mega evolution battles alongside Lysander. Zygarde has asked Lysander to help locate all of the Zygarde cells so it can reach its final form. Lysander has gone through some memory loss since the last time that we saw him in Pokemon X and Y. It's not really clear why, but he seems to be aware that he did something wrong and hopes to atone for his sins. I'm personally glad that Zygarde and Lysander are in this game working together. I think that this part of this story is actually pretty good. Zygarde has chosen Lysander to help him save Lumiose and probably all of Kalos after Lysander just tried to annihilate half the population just 5 years ago. It gives Lysander one of the best character arcs I have seen in Pokemon ever, and this is by far one of my favorite parts of the game. Unfortunately, there are so many big holes in the story that I just wish were explained better. First, Yveltal and Xerneas are nowhere to be found during the story. You would think, since so much of Zygarde's design, both his 100% and his Mega, have Yveltal and Xerneas homages, that they would have been involved at least a little bit during the story. It's even more disappointing when you think about Legends Arceus and how both Palkia and Dialga received new forms. I would have guessed that if we didn't see a fusion between Zygarde and the other legendaries, that we would have at least received new Mega Evolutions for them. But no, they're not here at all, and even though you can get them post-game, I think they're sorely missed during the story. The next biggest issue for me is the absence of some of the characters from the original games. First is Clement, who is nowhere to be found in this game. Sure, he's mentioned by some NPCs, but that's pretty much it. Him not being here is so weird. It's only been 5 years and his gym has basically been overtaken. We don't get an explanation of where he's gone or what he's up to, and it's like he just abandoned the city. Next is Karina, who is also not in the game at all. She was the gym leader that helped us discover Mega Evolutions in X and Y, and she doesn't even make an appearance here. I think it's okay that AZ is the one to give us our Mega Ring in this game, but the fact that she's not here at all is just jarring. I get it, it's unrealistic to ask for everyone to come back for the sequels if that's what these games are, I'm not really sure. But these two characters have very close ties to what's going on in this story. Clement with Prism Tower and Karina with all the new Mega Evolutions. And at this point, I hope we don't see Xerneas or Yveltal or Clement or Karina in the DLC, because truly, if they are in this game at all, they should have been a part of the base game story. I will say I like all of the characters they did bring back, like AZ, Mabel, and Emma. They have all made some great developments and actually have some pretty good stuff to offer the story. But sadly, that's not saying much. The story is still lacking substance and still lacking stakes. It doesn't start picking up until you hit Rate B in the ZA Royale. And when that does happen, it all kind of happens really fast, almost at a neck-breaking pace. You quickly find out that AZ was the one that created the weapon inside Prism Tower, and that he's known about the energy spilling out this whole time, but decided not to tell anyone until the very end of the game, literally the night before it's preparing to explode. And I gotta say, the ending sequence is such a letdown. You know, the city always kind of feels barren as you play, but it definitely feels the worst during this last sequence. Prism Tower is beginning to shoot lasers and float in the air, and there is not a single civilian anywhere to be found. As you're traversing the city one more time to find your way up to the tower, you see absolutely nobody other than some major side characters. You don't see anyone running away, needing help, it's just empty spaces. This did not feel threatening, and to be honest, it felt like a complete letdown. Again, this is the point of the story where you finally get confirmation that there is no real villain. It's just Prism Tower. It's not even that president lady that kind of gave us Rose vibes from Sword and Shield. At that point in the game, I was really hoping they would just, go that route again. But no, this president lady is just such a complete waste of potential. Honestly, she's not even in the story that much. So yeah, the story is just a letdown. Okay, so these next issues really aren't about the story, but some things that just annoyed me as I was playing. Obviously, there's no voice acting in this game, which is just such a shame. A lot of people say that it's due to localization issues since Pokemon is published in so many places at once, but I don't buy that. Literally every other game knows how to combat this problem, and it's only Pokemon that doesn't seem to care to fix it whatsoever. The story could have hit even harder if I could hear the pain in AZ's voice, the fear that Lysander had and not being able to find all of the Zygarde cells. But no, nothing. We just get some hand movement and dialogue boxes. Garbage. Also, there is no auto dialogue button. Like, come on, we're in 2025 and I still have to mash A to get through these conversations. In addition to that, there is no way to skip cutscenes or dialogue whatsoever. Again, for the 100th time, adding a skip button doesn't cost a lot of money. This is a Game Freak issue. This is a choice. They choose not to have these tiny quality of life features in their games. And it's not like we wouldn't know where to go either way. It's like the game tells you exactly where to go for every single mission. I just don't get some of these decisions. All right, let's touch on the graphics for a second because, man, this game is rough. Look at this scene with Zygarde. This is the climax of the story, one of the actual cutscenes in the game. Now, don't get me wrong, I wasn't expecting cyberpunk graphics for Pokemon, but some of these textures look like they are still on the 3DS. And don't forget that Pokemon models here have been an overall downgrade from Scarlet and Violet. A lot of Pokemon have lost their textures and now have gone back to looking flat again. So scales and furs and all the other stuff that Scarlet and Violet added are gone, been removed. Which, remember, this is a smaller Pokédex overall. Frame rate is another story. I played this game on Switch 2, so I had almost no frame drops. But if you see how this game runs on Switch 1, let's just say that I probably would have had more to say in this section. I did, however, still get a lot of pop-in, even on the Switch 2. That problem does not get fixed with the new hardware. Lumio City itself feels like one of the worst cities I've ever experienced in a video game. The entire city feels lifeless and unbelievable. And yes, the windows, they are very bad. Yes, there are no balconies. They are basically just JPEGs on the wall. It's kind of crazy, especially when you realize that The Witcher 3 ran on the Switch 1. Guys, I played The Witcher 3 on my Switch Lite with all its DLC. It doesn't have to be this way. And again, this goes back to what I was saying earlier. This doesn't feel like a budget issue. This feels like a lack of effort. We've seen what Game Freak can do. Have you guys seen the trailer for Beasts of Reincarnation? So I think it's fair to say that this is a Pokemon only issue. At the end of the day, Pokémon Legends ZA isn't a bad game. It's not horrible. It's just very frustrating. It's full of ideas that could have made it incredible, but constantly feels like it's fighting against itself. I wanted to like this game. I really did. I never hope for a Pokemon game to be bad, obviously, but for every amazing moment, there's another that reminds me of how much potential Pokemon still leaves on the table. Especially when you see how much Digimon has blown up this year, there's obviously a market for these type of monster capturing games. And I think with Palworld and Digimon, this is the first time in a long time that people are starting to choose the other options over Pokemon. Maybe one day we will get the Pokemon that finally feels complete, a game that respects the world it built, the fans that grew up with it, and the power of the hardware it's running on, because the Switch 2 is a powerful system. But unless Game Freak or Nintendo or whoever shows me that they actually care about this franchise, I'm not sure if I'll continue to support it. Anyways, that's been my review of Pokemon Legends ZA. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you on the next one. Peace.